All right, so welcome back to the AM show. Time for us to bring you what the papers are reporting this morning and to delve into them to understand what really, we can make out of the issues that the papers are reporting. We'll be joined by Justice Abdullah, who's a lawyer and a law lecturer at UPSA. He'll be joining us for us to go through the papers. But I have with me the Daily Graphic for today, the Ghanaian Times, the Daily Guide newspaper, the New Crusading Guide, the Economy Times is also represented here today. Now, on the front page of the Daily Graphic, it says, road fatalities down 20%, lowest in 20 years. National Cathedral Project wise decision, Reverend Stephen Wengam says so. Boost for local content, mining, investment and receipt, reach $10 billion. And retirees call for debt exchange exemption. So that's what the Daily Graphic is reporting today on the front pages. Now, with the Ghanaian Times, it has $10 billion boost for mining industry as new local content participation regulations take effect. We'll be discussing that with the lawyer. Now, exempt us from domestic debt exchange program, pensioners, bondholders forum says we are saving $3 million monthly employing local engineers at Atuabo. Ghana Gas MD says. Okay, so that's also on the front page of the Ghanaian Times. At the back page, Dogbo to face Ramirez for WBO title on April 1. Kotoko drop points again. Oh, Saki saves Legon Cities. It's a former World Boxing Organization, that's WBO Junior Featherweight Champion Isaac Royal Storm Dogbe has declared his readiness to reclaim his spot as a world champion against Cuban Rubesi Ramirez. Dogbe was 28, faces off against the 29-year-old Ramirez on April 1 in a WBO featherweight title fight in the USA with a venue yet to be confirmed. So that's it there for you. And I was speaking at a media briefing yesterday in Accra. Journey to rule the world 2. Dogbe described Ramirez as a no pushover and a winner. Quote, my opponent is a great fighter. At this level, no one is a pushover. Everyone is a king, and so it will be two kings facing off. End of quote. Now, he added that Ramirez, a two-time Olympic gold winner, provides the right experience and test for him at this stage of his career. He only welcomed tough and highly rated fighters. That's according to Dogbe there. All right, so let's wish him all the best. We'll be keeping an eye on that particular fight. Now, a late drama ensued at the Aliyu Mahama Sports Stadium in Tamale as visitors as Sante Kotoko's late goal against Tamale City, touted as the winner, was cancelled by a last-ditch effort from the home side, splitting the points to end the Bet Power Premier League match day 12 fixture 1-0. Kotoko, who has struggled throughout the encounter to break down Tamale City, found a breakthrough in the 84th minute when City defender Issa Nyabela turned in Kotoko Stephen Mwakale's low cross intended for Samuel Boateng in an attempt to block it. But City, who lies second from bottom and are battling relegation, did not despair but mounted a comeback, earning the leveller 2 minutes later through substitute Babamu Ibrahim. So that's the stories there in the Times. Now, the Daily Guide newspaper. Adom Group to reduce housing deficit. It has a picture of Dr. Bright Adom. Ghana Gas saves $3 million for using local engineers. It comes with a picture of Dr. Ben Asante, the MD of Ghana Gas, and Fatima Abubakar, who is the Deputy Minister for Information. Reshuffle looms as a Greek minister pulls out. Forget the naysayers, Anglican bishop tells Nana. Okay. Jenapo reject Mohammed's shade. Those are the stories on the front page of the Daily Guide. At the back page, it says, no World Cup clause in Ronaldo's contract. Okay. Ghanaians not interested in stars. Okay, so that's a question. It comes with a question mark. And dogs kill ex-Zambian striker. Oh, Okay. Now, the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Give chiefs legal backing to fight galamsey. Chief appeals to government. Paul Chum Berima tops as best first-time MP in Parliament. Mineral investment and receipt to hit 10 billion US dollars as Minerals Commission increases items on procurement. Okay, Zoom MP account to constituent and risk involved in Gensa deal. Ghana Gas Staff Association reviews. Okay. Now, the Economy Times newspaper, Ghana business activity downturn softens on CD rally IMF deal. Bank of Ghana authorizes 9 entities to undertake forex broker transactions and CD depreciation to be controlled in 2023 if things remain same as expected, according to an economist. Okay, so lawyer Abdullahi, Justice Abdullahi is ready and he is with us on Zoom. Lawyer Justice Abdullahi, good morning, and I hope you're well. Hello, Justice, can you hear me?
You.
Great. I hope you're well.
What has been good to us? Yourself?
I am well, and good to have you on the show this morning.
Absolutely. It's always fantastic being here.
Great. Let's start from the Daily Graphic. It says National Cathedral Project wise decision. Reverend Stephen Wengam says road fatalities down 20%, lowest in 20 years. Boost for local content mining. Investment receipt reach $10 billion. Retirees call for debt exchange exemption. Okay. Now, let's start off with the road fatalities down by 20%. Although road crashes and fatalities remain a grave concern in the country, latest statistics indicate that for the first time in 20 years, in 2022, crashes on the roads reduced by 20%. Now, the statistics made available to the Daily Graphic by the National Road Safety Authority indicated that from January to December last year, out of the 14,960 reported road crashes, 2,373 people lost their lives. Those crashes, which involved 25,754 vehicles, caused injuries to 15,690 people. In 2021, some 2,970 deaths occurred through road crashes, a decline from the previous year, 2020, when 3,073 people lost their lives on the road. What this means is that death through road crashes reduced by 20.1% in 2022 compared with the 2021 and also 2020, which had the data at 22%. Well, lawyer, so I mean, we all use the road. Hearing this, what's your reaction to this data that has been put out by the Road Safety Authority?
It sounds very tragic, and I am deeply worried about this. I have questioned over the years why we have to lose precious lives to road accidents. We imagine you are mentioning figures, numbers, as though these are just figures and numbers of rocks, stones, of objects. These are human beings who are perishing on daily basis. These are people's mothers we're talking about, people's fathers, breadwinners, people's children, people who could have indeed contributed meaningfully to our collective development and growth. These are the kind of people we are losing to recklessness and sometimes to indecisions and sometimes wickedness of our leaders. I have consistently since the year 2020 called for a nationalistic and approach to the fight against road accidents. And my call was stemmed from the level of enthusiasm that we showed during the fight against COVID. you saw a clear-cut policy and indeed a determination by the state in fighting against COVID. We may not have succeeded, but there was a clear intention, there was a clear roadmap, and indeed there was a holistic attitude from both the state's perspective and indeed individuals willing and ready to battle COVID to the last minute. And I don't know whether you've bothered to look at the numbers of COVID, the number of people who perished, and the number of people who even contracted COVID. I mean, during the peak periods. We didn't even lose 1/3 of the numbers that we are churning out today, that we are supposed to even be happy with. We didn't lose less than 1/3 of this number. We didn't lose up to 500 human lives during the entire period, in fact, during the peak periods of COVID. Now, this has been a period of about 2 years, now heading to the third year of COVID. And if we have lost maximum of 1,000 people put together, the known and unknown numbers, even if it's up to 1,000, imagine the amount of investment we put into COVID, the commitment that we put in it. In fact, the level of preparedness that governments and citizens went into the fight against COVID. Why was it so? Because we needed our lives and the lives of our family members and friends to be saved for the sole purpose of developing this country. Now, every year, we get these numbers from road fatalities as to the numbers of persons dying. In fact, I think we are, if I'm not mistaken, the average number of people we lose every year is now hovering between 2,500 and 3,000 every year. And we see very little commitment. Losing 3,000, in fact, even if 2,000 people every year for things that are easily redeemable, for things that ought not to have ever happened. And the only thing we do is to simply put up an advert saying that if you drink, don't drive. If you do this, don't do this. Campaigns are good. Slogans are nice. But are they enough? Have they been enough? Are they deterrent enough? Have they been succeeded in saving the lives of our compatriots? It has never been. It could have been my life today. It could be someone else's life tomorrow. It could be another person's life today. It appears that the only time we take some amount of seriousness in the fight against road accidents and the issues surrounding it is when prominent figures perish. But that ought not to be the case. That ought not to be the case. We need to show that zeal, that determination to stop road fatalities completely. Because they are not worth the kind of lives that we lose. We need those people perishing, those who are orphaned as a result of these road crashes. They don't deserve that. Our family members need us to come back home safe. And we know the major roles contributing to this because the police and the appropriate other road safety commissions and all the other institutions, and indeed the Ministry of Road, they have the figures of the roads that witness the biggest of crashes. My position is not to simply target these roads, but they could be the starting point of either redesigning our roads, lightening our roads. Indeed, if you ask a primary 1 student how to stop road accidents, they can outline literally every single step that ought to be taken. And these solutions are not lost on our leaders. They are not lost on road users either. But someone must be there to enforce the right things.
Okay.
If road users are not willing to do what is right to save their own lives.
Okay.
There's a reason why authorities are put in place. Because it's just unacceptable. It's so disheartening. And it's so painful to see your loved one that you said hello to just a minute ago be brought back in a sack because someone else didn't do his work well, because someone else didn't construct that road, because someone else didn't fill that pothole, because someone else who is responsible to ensure that that driver did not drive reckless simply took 5 cedis from him and allowed him to speed up. Because somebody else who was responsible, who ought to have known better, just sat back and allowed the rot to go on. Because of that, your mother never returns home.
Just by way of a little information about COVID-19, we, as of today, our total case count is 171,075. The death we recorded, we've recorded 1,461. So those are the number of people who have died.
Indeed, you just confirmed my point.
1,461. Yeah.
The entire 3 years lifespan of COVID in our country. And imagine the amount of resources that we put in there.
Okay.
And we cannot even do a scintilla of that in the fight against road fatalities and crashes. I mean,
so what do you think should change in our attempt to reduce the carnage on our roads? Like you allude to, we've done this over the years. Nothing huge seems to change. Now, it's good that we have reduced death by 20%, you know, or like the entire carnage by 20%. But there is more we can do. Like you said, these are people. These are not just numbers for numbers' sake. So, what do you think should change about our fight to help reduce the carnage on our roads?
Obviously, if you have been sloganing and screaming and it's not working, you ought to change the narrative. You need to do something that is much better, that's much enforceable, that is much desired. And like I said, even a primary one student would tell you how to reduce. First, you've attempted regulating how drivers drive on the roads, and it's not working. But nobody has checked the design of our roads. Nobody has bothered to put light on our roads. Almost all our major roads are still without lights. Till date, 21st century. Where you are lucky to find light poles there, you will never find the light working. And if a driver crashes, you complain. And the biggest of all these challenges is a single lane concept. The biggest of all these is a single lane concept.
Okay. So
if you check the statistics, you will notice that none of the dual carriages witness as much accidents as the single lanes. Single lanes, a little mistake from the oncoming vehicle, the other one is in danger.
Okay.
And when you have a dual carriage, even if it is a single on each side, and it's properly demarcated with a median neatly done concrete median, the incidence of having one vehicle, an oncoming vehicle, moving into the lane of the other is minimal.
Okay.
And these are not solutions that are lost on anyone. And then you get somebody telling you that, well, when the roads are too good, people speed so much, and so accidents occur.
Okay.
I think that's too fallacious.
Okay. So you expect more to happen?
That's too fallacious.
Let's attach this one to it, because it's also something that we've been running a campaign against for over the years. Now, the Ghana AIDS Commission has launched the National AIDS Spending Assessment Report for 2019, 2020, and 2021, which shows that the country spent $323.7 million in the years under review. So from 2019, 2020 to 2021, we spent $323.7 million in trying to fight, HIV and AIDS. Now, the reports show that the total HIV and AIDS-related expenditure for 2019, 2020, and 2021 stood at $88,648,560 for 2019. 2020, we spent $107,280,242. And in 2021, we spent $127,828,300 respectively. Now, the Director General of the GAC, that's Dr. Shreme Etuahene, who made this known at the launch and dissemination of the NASA report, said the funds for each respective year were the total contribution made by the government, the private sector, and the international donor community. However, he said the findings showed an over-dependence on international sources in financing the national HIV response, as it had been over the years. If you look at how much we've spent and our gains, does it commensurate, or you think there's something that should change about the whole advocacy to help reduce, like we've seen about the road accident, in terms of HIV and AIDS? Should something change? What should that be?
I think similar to the road accidents and indeed all other lifestyle-related deaths, the biggest responsibility is on the individual. The individual has the biggest responsibility to restrain himself from getting involved in some of these issues in the first place. But like I said earlier, where the individual, because the individual is indeed human, he has options, he has choices, and he will exercise it as and when. And it is irrespective of how much you restrain the person. You cannot restrain a person from exercising his right to sex. It's impossible. Not even in the Arabian worlds or the Islamic worlds where there's strict compliance with some of these matters. You still cannot take it away. But interestingly, you will never find statistics on AIDS and HIV in any of these strict Islamic worlds. I'm not advocating that we necessarily implement such strict measures here. But my point here is that government, regardless of the conduct of the individual, the citizen, still has a responsibility to cushion that individual if the unfortunate events happen. And these statistics that has just been doled out, telling us how much we've spent, of close to $330 million on HIV, and we are still having numbers increasing, tells you that something is not going right. Something is definitely not right. And that which is not going right is what we need to identify at this moment. Clearly, the advocacy has not worked. But if we are spending $300 million just to provide for people who have contracted lifestyle diseases, my thinking is that this $300 million could have been put in a better research into the incidence of AIDS itself and possibly finding a cure. We've had several claims in this country of people who tell us that they have cure to HIV. I do not know the extent to which government, HIV AIDS, to be specific, I don't know the extent to which government collaborated with such individuals to attempt finding a more lasting solution to this by collaborating with some of these institutions. It is okay to rely on traditional orthodox, medical fields to attempt finding solutions. But it is definitely better if a proportion of this is allocated to our traditional methods. And indeed, those who claim to have had it. I remember some time back, we had a man who was acclaimed to have indeed found a cure to HIV. And I understand he went to China to collaborate with some institutions in China and probably never came back. Now, why would such an individual, for instance, travel to China when the state of Ghana could have collaborated with this person to develop whatever medicine that he had to save us this huge $300 million continuously. In fact, it looks like every year we are spending on the average about $100 million. My position is that a proportion of this could have been invested or could be invested in those who are making these claims.
Okay.
And it will save us this $100 million every year because it's now become a ritual. And there's no sight to the end. So why don't you allocate a portion to these people and allocate a portion to those in the regular medical fields and see the best option out?
Okay.
Because really, the advocacy is not working. The restraint on the individual is not working. The continuous crying wolf is never working. Find something else, because if you keep doing the same thing as the speakers would tell you, if you keep doing the same things over the years and it's still not working, and you are still at it, there must be a reason why you should be called a madman. Because you can't keep doing the same thing and expect a different result.
Okay.
Let's change our approach to some of these events, some of these issues, and let's see whether or not we can have a better outcome.
Justice,
continuous perpetuation of the same solutions that do not yield results really make us a man.
Okay, all right. Let's go into the Ghanaian Times paper now. Now, $10 billion boost for mining industry as new local content participation regulations take effect. Well, this might be your area, so you help us understand it further. Now, following increases in items on the procurement list for the provision of goods and services from 41 to 50 in the mining industry, investment and mineral receipts have hit nearly $10 billion. This is as a result of coming into force of the Minerals and Mining Local Content and Local Participation Regulation 2020 LI 2431 on December 22, 2020. The purpose of the regulations, among others, is to promote job creation using local expertise, goods and services in the mining industry and their retention in the country. The law is also to achieve the minimum in-country spending on goods and services and to create mining and mineral-related industries that will sustain economic development. Pursuant to Regulation 7 of LI 2431, the Commission is required to publish a local procurement list which stipulates the goods and services with Ghanaian content which are to be procured in the country. So, I mean, it is good news for the country, isn't it, the lawyer?
Absolutely.
And how best can we ensure that the implementation is effectively done?
As usual, there are always questions to be asked. If you tell me $10 billion have been invested, literally invested in our economy through the local content bill, in this particular case, the local content law, I will expect to see how this really reflects on our people. But $10 billion is not some coins in the street. $10 billion can literally revolutionize our entire economy. Indeed, $3 billion is being fought over by the government with IMF. $3 billion. So imagine what $10 billion can bring. So I will expect a reflection of $10 billion on our economy without necessarily just taking these figures on the face of it. But it's a good it's a good policy. Local content is a good policy. I think our biggest challenge with local government is the enforcement. And then indeed preparing the local, the indigene to indeed take advantage of some of these areas. It's the same thing with the oil and gas industry, and it's indeed, in fact, in the entire extractive industry generally. The government has been doing so well in the push for local content to be a mainstream of these extractive industries. But as I said earlier, we need to be able to show more from it. We need to prepare our people. We need to capacity building is something that ought to be targeted to take good advantage of this area. It shouldn't just be buying of goods from locals, because we need the buying of logistics from within the local industry. You will notice most of the time that the multinational companies may indeed try to buy from the local guy. The local guy would in turn buy it from China and supply to the and so really the money that ought to have stayed here ends up going outside. And we lose the whole essence of this local content policy that should have revolutionized our economies, because we are still not developing the sort of industries that should feed these extractive sectors to take complete and indeed a better advantage of the system. So I think it's a good it's good that we are getting these figures, but we should interrogate it further to know exactly how much stayed within the economy and how much left, so that we can find means of curbing the flight of the dollars from within our jurisdiction.
Now, relatedly, the managing director of the Ghana Gas Company Limited, Dr. Ben Asante, has revealed that as part of the company's move to indigenize its operations, it has replaced Chinese expatriates running its Atwabo plant with local engineers, a move that saved the company some $3 million in operation cost every month. He made the revelation when he took his turn at the State of the Agency's report, a regular press engagement platform created by the State Interest and Governance Authority, SIGA, in collaboration with the Ministry of Information yesterday. I'm sure this is good news for us. What do you make of it?
Absolutely. I mean, indeed, this is what I was saying. You see, when you push local content so well, it has benefits to all stakeholders. It's not just the indigenous Ghanaian. Everyone, the state benefits, the state has its own benefits, the companies themselves. And this is one area where the company is priding itself for the benefit, the savings that it has made, simply by also ensuring that local content is pushed to the fore. $3 million is not a joke for a company to save. And it is the reason why all of us, indeed all stakeholders, not just government, all stakeholders must ensure that our hands are on deck and push this so well. But like I said earlier, the bottom line is building local capacity. If you do not build a quality local capacity, no amount of law can change what is wrong. No amount of law. And really, because if you push these companies so hard and they do not have any replacement, if it is human resources, because that's one area of local content. If it is just human resources and there is no one to take over, either from the managerial point of view or from the technical point of view, you'll be doing much about nothing, really. And you cannot leave the training, the capacity building to the companies, to the multinational companies to do without stakeholder involvement, i.e. government and indeed all other persons who ought to contribute to ensuring that the companies are also building capacity. Because if you notice, what we do a structured means of local content. So, and we leave the bulk of the responsibility on the company. If you do it that way, without any external supervision, and simply giving timelines, the companies will always bring you excuses. And with these excuses, you will never make any headway. So I'm calling for a robust way of ensuring this, because this $3 million could have probably been more.
All right.
Could have been more.
Justice Abdullahi, I'm grateful that you found time to join us on our show this morning. Thank you, sir.
Indeed, for God and country.
He is a lawyer and law lecturer at the University for Professional Studies, UPSA.